An Israeli airstrike on a school-turned-shelter in southern Gaza has killed at least 29 Palestinians, according to the territory's Hamas-run health ministry. The gate of Al-Auda school was struck in the town of Abbasan al-Kabira, east of Khan Yunis, from where civilians were ordered to evacuate last week. The local hospital spokesperson said the dead included at least 7 women and children, but the death toll is likely to rise. The Israeli military claims it was targeting a terrorist from Hamas's military wing, who, it said, was involved in the 7th of October attack. Israeli raids in Gaza have also forced the closure of many hospitals and medical facilities since the start of the war, causing the deaths of patients and medical workers, along with massive destruction to facilities and equipment. In Gaza City, the Al-Ali and the Patients' Friends Association hospitals have shut down, along with all 3 medical facilities run by the Red Crescent. Israel has claimed Hamas uses hospitals for military purposes, though it has provided only limited evidence.
As NATO marks 75 years since its inception, allies say they're facing the biggest security crisis in the West since the Second World War. 32 nations are meeting in Washington, D.C. this week, where NATO will announce further long-standing commitments to Ukrainian security, but will fall short of offering Kyiv membership of the alliance, something many say will only truly guarantee Ukraine's security. Ivo Dalder is the former US ambassador to NATO. He says both NATO and Ukraine need to do much more to end this war.
What Ukraine needs to do is to mobilize manpower. This is a war being fought by 40-year-olds. No other war in history has been fought by 40-year-olds. It's time that Ukraine really have a serious conversation about how important is this war and succeeding in this war to them. You can't do that just with 28, 29, and 30-year-olds, let alone 40-year-olds, which is the average age of the people on the front line. You need to get 18-year-olds, and you need to get 20-year-olds, and you need to get 21-year-olds, which is what every army in the rest of the world relies on.
What about, for example, Emmanuel Macron's premise that perhaps some NATO countries should send troops into Ukraine?
I think there may come a day where that is necessary, but you can't do that when you're not mobilizing your 18 to 27-year-olds. It's very hard to ask a mother or a father, a husband or a wife, a sister or a brother to send their sons and sisters and daughters to war to fight in a country which is not willing to mobilize its own people under the age of 25. And so more needs to be done by the Ukrainians. There's no doubt that that is part of the solution. You need more people on the front lines. There needs to be more weapons. There needs to be an end to the caveats. There needs to we need to prioritize the defense of Ukraine in a way that we haven't, and that includes the United States as part of it. It's only recently we found all these Patriot systems. Why not 6 months earlier? This summit should be about the reality that this is an existential moment, not just for Ukraine, but for NATO. For NATO to exist next year and the year after, Ukraine must succeed. Russia must fail in Ukraine.
Well, one of the messages from this summit is about unity within NATO, but you have the Prime Minister of Hungary, who holds the rotating presidency of the European Council, visiting Moscow and often repeating Kremlin lines about the war in Ukraine. What impact does that have?
Orban is too small and too insignificant to be a real threat to Western security. He's been at this for a good 2+ years now. And I think the only good thing that came out of this is that Viktor Orban must have been listening to Vladimir Putin, who was standing next to him at the press conference and said, there's not going to be a ceasefire. There's not going to be an end to this war unless and until we get all the territory that we demand. And I hope that one of the things Viktor Orban took away is to understand that this war has an originator that is in Moscow, not in Brussels, not in Washington, certainly not in Kyiv. And that if we are going to end this war, it has to be done by convincing Russia to stop fighting.
After Salvini's far-right League Party joined Orban's new bloc Patriots for Europe, the question raised in Italy is whether the current ruling coalition will hold. With 84 lawmakers, Patriots for Europe has not only become the EU Parliament's third largest group, replacing ECR in that position, but Spain's Vox Party has also defected from the same group headed by Giorgia Meloni. For now, Italy's Prime Minister has chosen a low-profile approach to address the matter. And Brothers of Italy told us they're not making any statements on the issue, so we put the question directly to the League Party.
Non vedo niente di male nell'avere sensibilità diverse sugli dossier europei da parte dei partiti di centrodestra. Anzi, a volte è stato anche un arricchimento più che un ostacolo, però in conclusione dico che dobbiamo essere molto, molto concreti, nel senso che questo è un governo che ha avuto la fiducia della gente, è giusto che continui a lavorare, poi le dinamiche europee si muovono su un binario che ovviamente ha delle ripercussioni, ma non saranno ripercussioni che vanno a inficiare il lavoro del governo italiano.
According to Forza Italia, which is also part of the ruling coalition, Patriots for Europe's role won't have a significant impact.
Come detto dal segretario Tajani, il gruppo dei patrioti sarà ininfluente nel prossimo Parlamento europeo. Forza Italia all'interno del Partito Popolare Europeo è impegnata a rivendicare un ruolo sempre più importante per il nostro Paese. L'alleanza di centrodestra, a differenza di altri paesi europei, si presenta stabile, compatta, in Parlamento sempre coesi per portare avanti il programma di governo che ha ricevuto una grande maggioranza dagli italiani nel 2022 e una conferma qualche settimana fa.
And on the war in Ukraine, Borchia says that the League Party has always found common ground with the two other political partners. According to political analyst Lorenzo Castellani, despite being part of Patriots for Europe, the League doesn't have enough leverage inside the government.
Gli impatti sul governo italiano, sulla maggioranza, sono abbastanza limitati perché in questo momento Salvini non ha la forza di insidiare né il predominio di Giorgia Meloni sulla coalizione di Fratelli d'Italia, né vanta grandi risultati elettorali tali da poter immaginare un ritorno alle urne o una caduta del governo.
Only time will tell whether or not the impact of new alliances being forged in Europe will be felt in Italy, potentially risking the stability of the Italian government. Giorgio Orlandi for Euronews in Rome.
Far-left La France Insoumise party lawmakers have rallied outside France's National Assembly, calling for a new prime minister. The party president stood outside the Palais Bourbon, demanding that one of the members of the successful New Popular Front coalition be appointed.
Nous avons gagné les élections législatives. Nous sommes, avec le nouveau Front populaire, aujourd'hui la première force politique à l'Assemblée nationale. C'est l'issue du scrutin de ce dimanche. Et nous exigeons qu'Emmanuel Macron respecte le vote populaire.
Centrist politicians want to also be involved in government.
Personne n'a de majorité à l'Assemblée, aucun bloc, quoi que certains disent. Et les Français nous ont envoyé, à mon sens, un message très clair. Ils n'ont pas voulu donner de majorité absolue à un quelconque groupe politique. Donc ils nous enjoignent de nous entendre, de travailler ensemble, et c'est ce que nous devons faire.
Sunday's French legislative elections left no political faction close to a majority needed to form government.
As you can see behind me, the Spanish are going absolutely wild after their team just propelled them to a spot in the Euros 2024 final on Sunday. They just beat France 2-1.
It's really good, we are the best country! To the final, mama!
On est un peu triste, mais quand même, ça a été un beau jeu, on a tout donné et on était tous ensemble ici pour soutenir notre pays, donc c'était cool.
And experts say that whoever wins this match, which tonight was between the football royalty of France and Spain, are the favourites to win the final. Liv Stroud in Berlin for Euronews.
Spain have beaten France 2-1 to reach the Euro 2024 final in Berlin and stay on course for a record fourth title. It was a tough start for La Roja as they went down after only 9 minutes. Spain's Lamine Yamal leveled it in the 21st minute with a stunning shot that made him the youngest scorer in the tournament's history at the age of 16. 4 minutes later, his teammate Dani Olmo put Spain in front after snagging a ball in the penalty area to slam it towards the low corner. The game was interrupted in the second half as a man stormed the pitch in the attempt of taking a selfie with Mbappé. But France failed to get dangerous as Spain cruised towards the final whistle, accompanied by the public's olé. They will play England or the Netherlands in the final on Sunday.
Thank God.
Europe's big new rocket, Ariane 6, has made its inaugural flight. The European Expendable Launch System, developed on behalf of the European Space Agency, took off on Tuesday from Europe's spaceport in Kourou, French Guiana. Originally scheduled for 2020 but pushed back due to the COVID pandemic and Russia's war with Ukraine, up to 13 European countries led by France collaborated on the development of Ariane 6. According to experts, the rocket will ensure Europe's guaranteed autonomous access to space. That will include the ability to go further, faster and more sustainably, disposing of the launcher's upper stage that will prevent it from becoming space debris. European officials aim to have Ariane 6 flying roughly once a month. Its predecessor, Ariane 5, famously blew itself up on its debut after just 37 seconds in 1996.
Euronews. The news